It's 12:47 a.m., late February 2019, Baltimore, Maryland. Jordan Hayes, a 34-year-old FBI agent, is gripping the wheel of his black Audi, rain pounding the windshield like it's trying to break in. After 16 hours chasing drug lords, all he wants is a hot shower, a stiff drink, and silence. Then, bam, red and blue lights explode in his rearview mirror. A siren screams through the night. His stomach drops, not because he's done anything wrong, but because he's been here before. And he knows how this can end. Stick around. This isn't just a traffic stop. It's the night a cop messed with the wrong guy, and a spark lit up something bigger than either of them knew. Jordan Hayes wasn't born with a badge in his hand. Growing up in West Baltimore, he was the kid who ducked under streetlights to avoid trouble, not chase it. His dad, Marcus, drove a delivery truck. Honest work, long hours. And Jordan still remembers the night Marcus came home late, shirt torn, knuckles bruised. "Cop stopped me again," he'd said, voice low. "Said I looked suspicious. In my own damn neighborhood." Jordan was 12 then, too young to fight back, but old enough to feel the burn of it. That burn stuck with him, through high school, through college, all the way to the FBI Academy. Now at 34, he's a star in the Organized Crime Task Force. A black man in a tailored suit that screams success. He's busted drug rings from the docks to the suburbs. But tonight, he's running on fumes. 16 hours of surveillance footage, witness interviews, and dead-end leads have left his eyes bloodshot. His shoulders knotted. The jazz station, Coltrane's saxophone wailing, hummed through the Audi's speakers, easing the weight pressing on his chest. The industrial district stretched out ahead, a maze of warehouses and flickering neon. Rain hammered the streets, turning asphalt into a mirror of green and red traffic lights swaying in the wind. The clock on the dash ticked to 12:48. Jordan adjusted his mirror, catching his own reflection, sharp jaw, tired eyes that had seen too much. For a second, the world felt still. Then those lights hit. Red and blue, like a predator's eyes in the dark. The siren sliced through Coltrane's notes, sharp and ugly. Jordan's hands tightened on the wheel, a reflex carved from too many nights like this. "Not again," he muttered. He'd lost count of the stops, cops pulling him over for broken taillights that weren't broken, or speeding when he was under the limit. Driving while black. They didn't need a reason beyond that. He flicked on his signal, pulled under a flickering street lamp, and rolled down the window. Cold, damp air flooded in, carrying the stench of rust and wet concrete. Hands on the wheel, visible, steady. He knew the drill better than most. Boots splashed on wet pavement, slow and deliberate, like a hunter closing in. Jordan tracked the figure in his side mirror. Officer Jack Colton stepped into view. Mid-40s, square jaw, stiff posture, screaming ex-military. His uniform was crisp despite the rain, badge glinting under the street lamp. Pale blue eyes locked onto Jordan, cold and judging, like he'd already written the story before seeing the man. "License and registration," Colton said, voice flat but thick with authority. "No. Good evening. No. Why I pulled you over. Just a command." Jordan reached for his wallet and glove box, movements slow, deliberate, his FBI training keeping his face a mask. He handed over the documents. Colton took them, thick fingers flipping through the ID with a flick of suspicion. His eyes darted between the license and Jordan's face, hunting for a crack. "You live around here?" Colton asked, his tone a trap waiting to spring. "No, just got off work," Jordan said, voice even. "Bit late for work, don't you think?" Colton tilted his head, rain dripping from his cap, a smirk tugging at his lips. Jordan's fingers tapped the wheel, a small vent for the frustration bubbling inside. He'd heard this script too many times, the subtle jabs, the veiled accusations. "I work long hours." Colton's lips pressed thin, jaw tightening. "You rolled through that stop sign back there." Jordan's head tilted, a flicker of disbelief. "Road was empty, officer. That right?" Colton's voice dripped sarcasm, his hand resting casually near his holster. The rain drummed harder, a steady beat under the growing tension. Jordan held his stare, feeling the shift. This wasn't about a stop sign. It never was. Colton stepped closer, boots splashing. "Step out of the vehicle," Jordan exhaled, breath fogging in the cold. "Is that necessary?" Colton's expression hardened, voice dropping low. "Unless you want this to get messy, boy." That word, boy, landed like a slap. Jordan's mind flashed to his dad, to the nights he'd come home with that same word ringing in his ears. His jaw clenched, but he unbuckled his seatbelt, pushed the door open, and stepped into the rain. His suit clung to his frame, water seeping through, but he stood tall, 6 feet of quiet defiance under the street lamp. "Turn around, hands on the car," Colton ordered, his tone sharper now. "You don't have probable cause," Jordan said, voice steady, eyes locked on Colton's. Colton's fingers twitched near his gun. "I'm not asking twice." The rain poured harder, soaking Jordan's shoes, streaming down his face. He had a choice: push back and risk it all, or play along and wait. Exhaustion tipped the scales. He turned, hands on the Audi's hood, the metal cold against his palms. Colton's pat-down was rough, hands digging into Jordan's pockets. His waist, more than procedure, it was dominance. A message: "I own this moment." Jordan stayed still, breathing slow, mind racing. When Colton stepped back, his grunt sounded almost disappointed. "You're clean." Jordan turned, patience fraying. "We done here, officer?" Colton scoffed. "Where you headed in such a hurry?" "Home," Jordan said, clipped. "And where's home?" Colton pressed, mockery lacing his words. Jordan's lips twitched, a dark amusement flickering. "You've got my license, officer. Take a guess." Colton stiffened, thrown by the calm pushback. Then Jordan decided it was time. "You might want to check my badge," he said, voice low and steady. He reached into his jacket, slow, telegraphing every move, and pulled out a worn leather case. He flipped it open. The golden FBI emblem gleamed under the street lamp, a silent explosion in the night. Colton's face went pale, his grip on the license tightening until his knuckles whitened. He stared at the badge, then at Jordan, then back at the badge, like it was a trick he could unravel. Before he could speak, a new voice cut through the rain. "Officer Colton, you're detaining an FBI agent?" Jordan glanced over. Emma Walker, local reporter, curly hair damp, sharp eyes glinting, stood at the edge of the scene, phone raised. She'd been refueling at the gas station across the street, chasing a late-night story when she spotted the standoff. Colton tensed, his posture shifting from hunter to hunted. The gas station crowd, pump attendants, a couple of stragglers, murmured, pulling out phones. Flashes popped in the dark, capturing the moment. Jordan stepped forward, voice calm but steel-edged. "My documents, officer." For a heartbeat, Colton didn't move, pride battling reality. Then, with a reluctant grunt, he shoved the license and registration back into Jordan's hand. "This isn't over," he muttered, barely audible over the rain. Jordan's smile was razor-thin. "You're right, it's just getting started." He slid back into the Audi, started the engine, and pulled away, taillights fading into the storm. Emma lowered her phone, already uploading the clip. Rogue cop versus FBI agent. Within an hour, it was spreading like wildfire. By 8 a.m., Jordan sat in Captain Lucas Price's office at Baltimore PD headquarters. The room smelled of stale coffee and old leather, walls lined with commendations that felt meaningless now. Lucas, grizzled and 50-something, rubbed his temples as he watched the viral video on his laptop. Colton stood in the corner, face ashen, uniform suddenly less imposing. Jordan set a thick folder on the desk with a thud. 7 complaints on Colton in 3 years, he said, voice steady. Racial profiling, excessive force, unlawful stops, all buried. Lucas sighed, eyes weary. "I know. And he's still out there," Jordan pressed, leaning forward. "Last night wasn't random, Captain. It's a pattern. Same one my dad faced. Same one too many of us face." The room fell silent, the weight of it settling like dust. Lucas glanced at Colton, then back at Jordan. "What do you want?" "Accountability," Jordan said. "Not just for him, for a system that lets this keep happening." You know what's coming if it doesn't stop. Lucas nodded slowly, jaw tight. Colton, you're suspended. Effective immediately. Internal Affairs takes it from here. Colton's eyes widened, disbelief twisting his face. Captain, Dismissed. Lucas cut in, tone final. Colton shot Jordan a venomous glare before storming out, the door slamming behind him. Lucas studied Jordan, a faint respect in his gaze. You're not letting this go, are you? Jordan grinned faintly. Not a chance. 2 weeks later, the story blew wide open. Emma's footage sparked outrage. Protests outside the precinct, chants echoing through the rain-soaked streets. No justice, no peace. Signs popped up, some scribbled with Black Lives Matter. A phrase Jordan knew well. One that had been simmering since Trayvon Martin, waiting for moments like this to boil over. This was 2019, a year before George Floyd's death would set the world ablaze, but the fire was already here, smoldering in Baltimore. Testimonies flooded in. People who'd faced Colton's wrath, their stories mirroring Jordan's. Internal Affairs dug deeper, uncovering a web of misconduct stretching beyond Colton to a handful of other officers. By mid-March, 3 were fired. A new training program rolled out, de-escalation, bias awareness, with Jordan tapped as a consultant. That evening, he drove home through the same streets past that flickering street lamp. The Audi's engine purred, jazz playing soft. He wasn't just an agent anymore. He was a spark. And this fight, it was bigger than him now. Jordan leaned back in his driver's seat, rain streaking the windshield. His mind drifted to his dad again. Marcus, who died 5 years back, heart attack from too many hard years. Keep your head up, son, he'd always said. They'll try to break you, but you don't let. That night under the street lamp, Jordan hadn't just stood up for himself. He'd stood up for Marcus. For every black man who'd been stopped, searched, humiliated for no reason but the color of their skin. He thought about the protests, the signs, the voices. Black Lives Matter wasn't just a slogan. It was a truth he'd lived, a truth his dad had lived. Jordan didn't march that week. He was too deep in the system, working from the inside. But he felt it, the pulse of it, in every call for justice ringing through the city. Back at his apartment, he poured a bourbon, the amber liquid catching the dim light. His phone buzzed. Texts from colleagues, a link to Emma's latest story, FBI agents stand fuels reform. He scrolled X, seeing the clip rack up millions of views. Comments poured in. This is why we fight. BLM for real. Jordan's a legend. He set the phone down, staring out at the rain. Colton was just one man, but the system behind him, that was the real beast. Jordan knew this wasn't the end, not even close. A year later, when George Floyd's name would echo across the globe, he'd see that night in 2019 as a warning shot, a moment when the ground started to shake. So what's the takeaway from Jordan's rainy night? 1. Know your worth. Jordan didn't bow because he knew who he was, badge or not. No one gets to define you. 2. Stand firm. One stand unraveled years of wrong. Courage isn't loud, it's steady. 3. Sparks ignite. One man cracked the system open, and the streets answered. Change starts small, but it grows. Before, truth outlasts power. Colton's badge didn't shield him because right beats might every time. This was Jordan's fight, but it's ours too. A year later, Black Lives Matter would roar louder than ever. Jordan's night was a preview of that fire. Could you stand up like he did? Ever had power test your truth? Drop your stories in the comments. I'm reading every single one. Smash that like if you're Team Jordan, subscribe for more real-life epics, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's next. This isn't over. Round 2's coming. Who's with me?